Hit start. Go ahead, girl.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is week 5, chapter 5. I am Wella.
Michelle,
Adenike.
Jalen.
All right. We will be covering objectives and reflection questions within this podcast. The list of objectives we will be covering objective number 1, make an assessment blueprint for a selector response assessment. Objective number 2, write preposition for knowledge and reasoning targets. Objective number 3, create selected response items for each format option. Objective number 4, audit a selected response assessment for quality. And then number 5, use selected response assessment formatively with students. Objective number 1.
All right, yes. So I have objective number 1, which is make an assessment blueprint for a selective response assessment. And so, pretty much, my blueprint is a guideline of how to ensure, as a teacher, you have made a successful selected response assessment. So, number 1, starting with a clear learning target for your students that align with the assessment and its goals. And also make sure there's clarity. And the reason why you need clarity because it's important to ensure that the questions are clear to avoid any type of confusion. Second, create a different questions formats. So, for example, have like multiple choice or like true or false. For example, also you want to include like distractors or like incorrect answers. So that way there's a thinking process when the students are doing the assessment. 3, set questions that will require students to use different stages of cognitive, I messed it up, skills. 4, use grading methods that will efficient with the grading assessment. So making sure that like your assessments are going to be efficient. 5, reflect on assessment quality and possible factors that may have not been beneficial. So, pretty much provide immediate feedback for selective response questions. And the main goal of the blueprint is for educators to design effective selective responses for the assessments that accurately measure the students' learning and understanding. And that is it for objective number 1.
See, what I heard a lot from objective number one was make sure that we're planning appropriately for the targets and everything else. Okay, bye bye. Um, so with objective number two, we have write propositions for knowledge and reasoning targets. So first I want to define what propositions were. And what the reading actually defined it as was as declarative statements of important facts, concepts, results of applying a pattern of reasoning that you want your students to master. So, essentially, how I took it as was statements of correct answers and serve as a foundation for item writing. So, using your propositions to actually develop your tests. Um, Two ways that they are extremely efficient is for one, they help you identify the content that will be on the test, and then two, they help you generate any type of selected response item. So, because of how they're worded and because they hit on specific concepts, you could take the proposition and make a question, or you could, or even to add upon that, you then can make responses. So, whether that's true or false, or the traditional ABCD, etc. There were two type of propositions, the knowledge and the reasoning. Knowledge propositions state a fact or concept that students are expected to remember or understand, aka this states what is true. So I'm a biology teacher, so an example for me would be that photosynthesis occurs in chloroplasts of plant cells. It's straight to the fact, that is what it is. This is what I need you to know. Another example would be mitosis results in two genetically identical daughter cells. So these are just straight facts that I need you to know. And then from there, I can branch off and make questions. So I could ask the students, just plain and simple, let's say fill in the blank. Blank occurs in the chloroplast of plant cells. I could have four different answers. The correct answer would be photosynthesis. The other type of proposition was the reasoning propositions. A hard definition is that it requires students to apply knowledge to draw a conclusion, compare, infer, analyze. But simply put, it states what they should figure out. So if I give you a fact, you should be able to figure blank out. So an example would be if a plant is placed in low light conditions, then the rate of photosynthesis will decrease. So it's not, it is a fact, but that is not a specific thing that I'll be teaching you on. You should be able to figure that out once you know that photosynthesis requires light. And just to piggyback off the mitosis and the DNA replication, a mutation in the DNA would alter the protein structure and affect the phenotype. So I'm not teaching them directly that this is it. It's probably just due conversations or during the lecture. This is something that comes up. This is something that they should be able to figure out once they know the fact. So I think that's all I really want to say. So just to sum it all up, the knowledge is straight fact, the exact thing that I want you to know, while the reasoning propositions are ones that you should be able to infer once you know those facts. So they almost kind of piggyback, sorry, the reasoning piggybacks off the knowledge propositions.
Awesome. That was good, Miss Adenike. My section was creating a high quality selected response assessment. So I wrote down 6 steps. Step 1 is to determine the assessment purpose. So decide if it's formative to guide the learning or summative to evaluate the skill level or achievement from the student. Step 2 is to identify the learning target. So pinpoint the knowledge level targets for the students and by recalling facts and recognizing concepts to assess. Step 3 is to select the assessment methods. So choosing a selected response format that's best suited for the targets. Step 4 is to determine the sample size. So you need to decide how many items or how much content you need to sample. Enough items to cover targets without overwhelming students or the students in class. Step 5, develop or select items that create clear, precise steps and questions with one answer and align with your targets. And the last step is to review and critique your overall assessment. So checking for quality of the assessment and the time if needed, and revise your assessment if needed. And that is all that I have. So that's all.
Um, Thank you for objectives number 3. Kind of falls in line with objective number 4, just looking at quality. So objective number 4, audit and select the response assessment for quality. When diving into that, like understanding what it's talking about is pretty much auditing and select the response. Computer, please don't die on me. Auditing and select the response assessment for quality means reviewing um, whether the test actually um, measure what it intends to measure and reflects the sound of the design. So this process pretty much includes um, identifying proposition behind each test item, checking alignment with learning targets, ensuring that the method matches the target types, reviewing the content, the key content, and then looking for a source of any bias like reading difficulties, unclear wording, and then like poor directions, and then time limit. And then also observing students' performance during testing and then revising items as needed, using results formatively to guide instructions. So pretty much the goal is to just ensure that the assessment is fair, valid, and supporting learning. Is what I got from auditing, is just making sure that everything lines up. All right. That's objectives number 4. We
Okay.
are on reflections.
I think we got objective number 5 to
Oh, excuse me.
you're fine. But we're all kind of gonna discuss our own points on that. So objective number 5 is a way teachers can use selective response assessments formally with students. And so me personally, I said after the students will say complete an assessment and you notice like there's a few incorrect answers. So I would say a solution would be is having students retake the selective response assessments, which can reinforce learning and help them understand the material better. So like repetition, and which also can help the student understand, but also allows the student to see their own progress while learning. So that's kind of like my opinion on that. So, and Anike, I don't, do you have anything you would like to say?
Yeah, I just really wanted to say that But I guess what the biggest thing that I took from number five was that the selected response can be used like formatively, which is, in my opinion, the best way to use selected response because like one thing it says in the book is that it doesn't really allow it it can only go as deep as, reasoning, but when it comes to like creating a product or like really what was the other word? It was either making a product or um the other one. I cannot remember the four different things that you can get. But anyway, but when it comes to like actually like taking the knowledge further, it limits it. So I do think that they are best for formative responses. And it helps you diagnose the instructional needs, and then it also allows students to self-assess and then set goals for next steps. So like you said, Quishelle, of like they can take the questions that they got wrong and then redo it, and then maybe from there, especially if like you go over it beforehand,
Mhm.
or even go through the questions with them, right?
Right.
Then they would get a chance to like understand like why they got the question wrong. Because one thing I always liked about going over tests with teachers was when they would tell you why the answer you chose was wrong. It was like, well, because they would even tell you like, no, you actually misunderstood this fact, or it's like, oh no, I see how you thought that was the correct answer, but this is the best answer because of XYZ. So that's why I think like formatively, selected responses are just better because it's just clear cut. Do you understand it? Do you not? But then when it gets further, when it's like, okay, but can you really take this information and apply it to the real world? Can you create something with it? That is where I think that selected responses kind of take you away. Like unless you just write a very, very long question or have very, very long answers to where they're forced to have to think a little bit harder. So like with my photosynthesis, like if I had to say, well, if there was an issue with this and this and this, what are the different outcomes it would be? And then the answers would be like 2 or 3 lines long. That's not really good for formative assessment. They actually say that you should keep the responses relatively short. So yeah, that's just my take on objective number five. I think, Wele, did you have something to say? I
I
know
mean,
Jalen didn't have anything.
what I took from it, just by like prior reading and the reading that we had to do, is just pretty much collecting data for like teachers to know where students are to see if they need to adjust their learning targets for whether it be any like if assessment's not valid or if there's any bias or stuff like that that's not um where students are not learning for teachers to be able to adjust their learning targets so that assessment in between, because formatively is just looking at it where students are in between before the ending part of the lesson. Do they fully understand, which is the summative part? So it's like collecting data to see if you can adjust the targets so that students are able to learn what it is that teacher wants them to learn, or if they have already grasped the concept.
Yeah, but that's like that kind of piggybacks off what I said because when you
Mm-hmm.
have a formative and you now see like, ooh, these kids didn't understand this target, this target, this target, and all three of those are pretty heavy on the summative.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure we go over there so that they can be more successful on the summative assessment. So
Exactly.
I think we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like
I,
just collecting data is how I saw it.
but you are right. Now we're on the reflections, and I'm actually the first reflection today. Where we are, let me make sure I'm looking at, yep, I'm looking at the right thing. To where I'm supposed to be talking about the ideas that I found the most convincing, and it's almost exactly what we were just talking about, was that selective response should be used as formative. Because like I said earlier, it checks for the knowledge and understanding. It begins to really apply reasoning, like I already said, and then it starts checking for misunderstandings because when you have the selected response, like I said, if you like say it's A, B, C, D, and B and C were really, really close, but C was the incorrect answer, and you saw a lot of students choose C, then you know, okay, there is a general misunderstanding across the classroom about this concept. So there, and then even then with the selected responses, it's like well, if they all chose this answer, what about it can I now reteach so that they can choose the correct answer next time? So it even sees like where maybe the way you explained it kind of made the entire class actually think of it one way compared to the other. Like almost, I'm not a math teacher, but that's just the example that's coming to my head. Like if you're doing addition and you told your students to count 1, 2, 3, and the answer is 1 plus 2, and they did, oh, okay, so 1, 2, 3, the answer is 4 because you taught them to count on their fingers wrong, and then they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to start with one finger up. I'm so, you know what I mean? So I feel like when you do selective responses and things of that nature, it just helps kind of, like I said, just check for understanding. I think they're best for check understanding. I apologize if you hear my children. He's been into wolf. You can't. Awesome. These mics are very, very selective because he most definitely just howled like a wolf, really, really loud. Alrighty. I don't think I have anything else. Like I said, I kind of already said it with objective number 5, but that's what I find the most convincing is for sure that formative assessments are really, really good for checking understanding more than anything else, in my opinion. I think, especially for the fact that I do science, like open answer would be way better for really getting them to think and being able to apply the knowledge because it can go all different types of way. If the mutation happens here, can it do this? Would it do this? Would nothing happen? What do you think? So, yeah, that's all I gotta say though. Not saying it doesn't have a place in summative, but yeah.
That was good, Miss Adenike. As a first year teacher, first couple months teacher, I would say some challenges are in PE we do performance based assessment. So I'm trying to see how to use selected response to show and assess their knowledge of the skill. So like you said, formative assessments are good, but I'm trying to see how I can fit that into the PE world. So that's my challenge as I'm thinking and hearing everybody's responses. Mrs. Wele, I don't know what you have, but I'll listen to yours and feedback if I hear,
I mean, I know I had formative assessments in
in
PE.
PE.
They were yeah, I had them. I remember thinking, why? Like as a child, like what are you doing?
Like, what are you doing? Okay.
Yeah, but it
Right.
was
I'm
just
ready.
like if you were doing the basketball, if this was the basketball keeps coming up, like if you're doing a bounce
Mhm.
pass, it would really be like, okay, if you're doing a bounce pass, do you bounce it towards your toes? Do you bounce it in the middle between you and
I mean,
whoever
yeah,
you're
I can give
trying to
like
do?
little short, little quick questions like that, but like
Yeah,
any
but yeah,
other things, I'm like,
yeah, I don't, yeah, I can see like how in
it
different
varies.
like whenever do you do elementary school or middle?
Elementary.
I don't even know what I did in elementary school. A lot of
Oh
jumping
gosh.
jacks. I know that.
We do
That's the
basketball,
thing
jumping.
with like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
It's
Go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead,
Well, I was
Jalen.
just telling her the stuff we do in PE, like what's on the playing agenda or whatever. But
I
you can
was
go. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say with elementary PE, middle and high is different. So elementary
Mhm.
is more so like activities and because it's more so getting them up and moving. With activities. So
Mhm.
it's not a lot about assessment, but I notice now that we are getting to the world of wanting to apply assessment to encore classes
Mhm.
to ensure that, you know, PE teachers are doing what they are supposed to be doing to make sure teaching where kids are
It's
learning.
effective.
Yes.
Mhm.
So now it's like um, is taking those activities and just making sure that kids are understanding why they are moving. And then if you go the extra miles by adding in skills, you
Mhm.
want to be able to teach why is it are we doing this and how to do it properly and teaching the forms and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I try to walk around while they're doing like the skill. Like if I say dribble with your right arm, left arm, I try to walk around and try to observe them that way. But sometimes that's hard because it's like I don't know. Sometimes it can get challenging. But
Yes, it is
um,
challenging because I think what
it's
people fail to realize is we see everybody in the building.
hmm
We
and then
see
No.
try to get
everyone in
keep
the
all their
building, and
attentions at
then
the same time.
keeping all of the classes where they at, who's learning what, and all of
Hmm.
that. So the easy way, like, because with PE to look at with assessment, how to assess these all these number of students in in the school. What is the quickest way to assess
To
them to make sure
assess
that they
all
are
of them.
learning? Yeah. And
That
then
same class period.
so that's where like
Sometimes.
performance assessment really work with PE,
Hmm.
because the number of classes and students that you are teaching is, like even today in our PD course, we had to meet all the PE teachers. And
Hmm.
one of the question the young lady asked was like, "How do you remember all of these students in the building? It's
That's a question I have
impossible."
too.
So can you imagine having to do assessments for every student in
Exactly.
the building? So, and they also go back to what actually fits what it is that you're teaching, what fits within your classroom. And
Hmm.
performance based assessment really does fit within a PE classroom,
PE
because
room.
the
Hmm.
numbers of students that we have, like show me, demonstrate, is easier to check that to know than versus to have bunch of
I try to
paper with
put,
like assessment that you
yeah,
got to go home and grade, and it's like
right.
500 students in the building that you're grading. Like,
Yeah.
what
Now I try to
fits
do
my
the center thing.
classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where all of them are in centers, and then I stay in one of the centers and just ask them like three questions, like
And I
three
think that's
questions
where it
that,
comes in,
yeah,
like, be smart about your assessment, what
yeah,
fits with your classroom and the students that you have within your classroom.
yes. I'm sorry, y'all. That was good
All right.
information, Miss Wella. You're awesome.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Because that's one thing I really advocate about too. I'm like, y'all have to realize, like, teachers have these 25 sets of kids throughout the day that they
Hmm.
have, and unless you're in middle school where you switch in classes. But in
Hmm.
elementary school, I have 500 students
Oh, I got four.
taking.
So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And that's why I was like, you really have to be smart about which assessment you're choosing, and then consistency, how you're running your classroom. I know notice that with PE, make it a routine, like they
Hmm.
understand, like, this is kind of assessment that you're going to be having towards the end of every lesson. That way they
Okay.
already know the procedure, they already know
Trying to
everything.
remember and show it
Yes.
during the. Okay.
So like when you're doing a skill, they already know that this is the skills that they're gonna be going over. Let All they have to do is demonstrate or show you, or you can make like a paper assessment. But then you also
Hmm.
have to remember too, pencils and paper and PE. You gotta be careful because we do have some in there that have
Yeah.
behaviors and going on,
Hmm.
and then you have pencil, because I had a kindergarten
Or
throw
I can do it
pencil
like the
across the room.
oh goodness.
Paper, like, so you got to be careful too with
Mhm.
what materials that you are using as well.
That's true. I'm sorry. All good
So
information. Thank you.
you're welcome. So I'm gonna dive into reflection number 3. My question is this: which strategy or idea from this chapter would you feel most confident implementing, and why? I try to stay away from performance based and try to like do something different. So I simply said, the strategy I feel most confident implementing is using selective response assessment, by providing students with descriptive feedback. See, that's another thing you can do. Feedback, like, set on feedbacks when you're doing like performance based. Hey, you might want to step back with your right foot. Like as far as correcting forms, and then opportunities to analyze their results. Um, I feel like this approach stands out because it turns assessment into tools for learning rather than just grading. And I really feel like with PE too, that's a big thing, because with elementary school, we are not grading. It's really about giving them feedbacks and making sure that they learn the proper form. Look, I sound like an expertise. They better put me on the PE team. But anyway,
Yes, ma'am. I'll be attending.
but but it's because we are not grading, so we are looking at form. Are you doing this correctly? Because the main thing is to prevent injury and to make sure that whatever you're doing is effective. So by helping students identify their strength, understand mistakes, and set goals, so that feedback gives students that, versus having them do assessment where you grade in and stuff like that. I feel like that is not the most effective assessment for PE, because you want to give students set on feedback so they're able to adjust and know how to correct, you know. um whatever skills that you are teaching. So this strategy aligns well with my role as a PE teacher because it promotes reflection, improves understanding, and make assessment more meaningful. That's why I chose that.
All right. Well, now it's time for reflection number 4. And I want to say y'all did a great job. I mean, hey, y'all was teaching me some things.
That's Miss Willa. That's Miss Willa.
Okay.
Look, I'm trying to get her to put me on the board for helping
You do.
me.
I think you
You
really
should.
do. You gonna get it right. Okay, so reflection number 4 is what part of this chapter makes you feel uncertain, nervous, or hesitant about implying in practice? So I would say using formative approaches after students complete an assessment and pretty much giving them that constructive criticism, so the students, so you can pretty much show them the correct answer. And the reason why I say this is I know that sometimes students can think that's like harsh, or they may like lose motivation, especially if they're used to always getting, teachers pulling them aside, hey, like you need to fix this or you need to do this right. Like I remember as a kid, like if I messed up all the time and I always had to be pulled to the side, I'm thinking like, dang, like I'm never gonna get it right. So you lose that type of motivation and that focus. So now you're just not really caring because you're already assuming that you're doing it wrong. So that would be my only concern is how to ensure that I'm giving the proper assessment for the student, but also making sure I'm giving that self-reflection for the student in a positive way so they can progress and so they can see that, their own progress and they can see that they're doing better. So that's my only concern. That balance between, make sure I'm giving them the correct answer, but at the same time making them understand like, hey, you're progressing still, you're doing the right thing. So just keeping that educational development and that motivation. So that is my part for the reflection.
Yeah. And I believe that's that feedback
Hmm.
piece. Just making sure that you creating a positive feedback and
Hmm.
valid feedback where they can improve, what they can take to improve.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Man, so I think that's really all. I think we talked about everything just to kind of like wrap everything up in like a little bow. Chapter 5 was really all about like how to use like assessment development skills essentially. It's like trying to build those skills on us. So whether that is like through the 6 steps or we actually how to create a blueprint, how to use propositions to both help us like plan in the classroom as well as within the blueprint so that we know exactly, okay, are we doing knowledge targets? Are we doing reasoning targets? Like, what are we doing here? And what all do I need from my students and how deep of an understanding as of now do we need them to have? Um, and then just like general advice that I was able to, that I found in chapter 5 was just like, make sure that we, make sure we know the questions, make sure that we, all right, know what questions we're asking. I noticed something that we didn't really talk about because it wasn't really like a big thing on the objectives, but it mentioned how we should eliminate cluing and how we shouldn't like within the question like allow guessing to happen. So how I remember that was maybe like if it's a B C D, like knowing like two of the answers kind of go together, like well I know that one's not right and that one goes with that one, so that one can't be right. Things like that. Because that essentially kind of pushes the student to choose the correct answer by doing things like that. And I never thought about that because I know when I was teaching 6th grade science, we were kind of doing that for the students just a little bit. Granted, this is like the first COVID year back. So we were kind of like, these kids haven't been to school in 2.5 years. We can give them some guessing. They haven't been taking tests a whole lot. So, but now that I know, I'm just like, oh, we really shouldn't have been doing that. But something we didn't know at the time. We were creating a whole new lesson plan, brand new. Um, but yeah, selected responses can be used like formatively, like I said, which I think is the biggest point that we kind of all kind of talked about was how selected responses are really good for formative because it shows us what they know, what they don't know. We can assess it easier. It's kind of like opening the gate for conversation with the students because like, hey, I saw you got this question wrong. Let's read over the question again. Let's read over these answers. Let's see why this answer is right, this answer is wrong because you don't even have to focus on the correct answer. You can focus on all the incorrect answers and show them like why that isn't the correct answer, you know? So I just do think that selective responses are really, really good for teacher student feedback. and things like that. So I don't know if anybody else has anything that, oh, and how Jalen even mentioned like in her specialty or her and Willa's specialty, formative assessments are, well, selective response assessments specifically are harder just because everything is very physical. Like, so I don't even know. Maybe you guys can do, well, I just had an idea. What if
Woo!
it was to be like on some like you have A, B, C, D and like you're demonstrating in front of the classroom and it's just like a group quiz? I don't know if that helps.
Like
So
in a
it's
circle or
like,
something?
I
huh?
think
Like a class game?
Either like a game or let's say like the bounce pass thing. Like you have a student, you're like, okay, which
Okay.
one of these is the correct way to do a bounce pass? And you do something silly like you
Uh,
throw the ball hard on the ground. Like, is that the correct? No. And then you do three ones. Okay, which one was the right one? And
mhm.
then that kind of
oh
be
yeah.
that because it's formative, like you don't really, I guess in this case you guys wouldn't really need a grade. It could just be class participation that day.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then but you
Mhm.
still go through the skills and then still give the selected responses, things like that. I just came up with that. Don't I don't
Yeah, that too. And then you can
Yeah.
also tag on technology piece on
Mm.
that. So you can
Mm.
either create a slides with those questions and then have like that nowadays they have the little drawings that actually do the movement like,
Oh.
A GIF?
a like if A the correct answer is jumping jacks, you have someone doing a jumping jacks. B, like where add
Oh.
that technology piece along with that formative piece. Where the question is demonstrating, I mean not the question, the answer choices are demonstrating what they are, and then the student pick the right answer, you know. Yeah.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah, see, look
I
at
have
us
seen
thinking.
some PE teachers
Yeah.
do that have the lower grade levels. Or with middle school, you have at least 2 to 3 PE teachers,
At
That's
running.
least
good
a
for
boys and
visual
a girls
learners.
coach. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, look. Well, hopefully some brainstorming. Hopefully, I hope that helped. But anyway, this is the end of today's podcast. I hope you guys enjoy, maybe learned a little something. We are signing off. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Remember? We did it for a little
Is it
while.